Hey guys, welcome back to Results Junkies podcast. By the time this episode goes live, Paul will be down in the Caribbean and I should be on my way back from Web Summit in Europe, taking a look at what startups are out there across the world. Another unconventional episode for you this week. It's part 2 of our time in South Dakota with Matt Paulson from MarketBeat, giving some office hours for one of our portfolio companies, Point Path, and their founder, Julian Kheel. I hope you guys find this interesting, an inside look into what it looks like when we're giving portfolio companies advice on how they should grow their companies. If you're looking to track us down online, you can email us, show@resultsjunkies.com. He is at Paul Singh on all those social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion. Paul and I will be back in the U.S. shortly and back to regular episodes. But for now, hope you enjoy these extended office hours with one of our portfolio companies and hanging out at MarketBeat headquarters in South Dakota. When I think about travel and I think about travel search, a large chunk of it is driven by mobile. And so I think what we're getting now is we are narrowing down our demographic of folks who use desktop. That's an older user who fits into a specific category, less likely to buy experiences, less likely to buy things from a referral link in terms of the travel space. And so I do think that if you build this model on growth on the existing customer that is desktop or laptop driven, it may not be a customer that is as easily influenced as the customer that's booking and searching on a mobile platform.
You're definitely right that our audience is skewing older because we do not have mobile. There's no doubt about it.
That's okay.
Okay.
I mean, you start with the core and you can bolt on stuff later.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't worry about what you don't have today.
Yeah.
I would worry more about okay, you're sending one email that's making you $1,000 a week. Why don't you send another email on a Wednesday and double it?
Mm-hmm.
And you just doubled your revenue. And say your Wednesday email is your, every week you feature a different destination and you got the same stuff in there, and great. Because right now, an email sign up is worth $1 a year to you.
Mm-hmm.
Based off, you're making $1,000 a week from your email and maybe a little bit from subscriptions. So your goal is to get that number as high as possible so that you can pay as much as possible to get more of those people. And then you create that growth flywheel by making much money, putting some of it back into ads, getting away with much more people, making much more money, and just repeating the cycle. I mean, we're up to $1 million a month in ad spend to grow the email list. And we're happy to do it because I know that's we break even on it in 90 days and everything after that's gravy.
Yeah, let me ask you this, and I don't know if you can share this, and it's fine if you can't. Obviously, one of the things that I keep an eye on when we're sending emails is our unsubscribe rate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's relatively low, and I did notice, and I'm sure you'll tell me, of course, that that's the case, when we started more actively emailing our list once a week,
mm-hmm.
For the first few, our unsubscribes were about 1.2%. It's now dropped each week, and now it's down around 0.7%. Is that high? Is that low?
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
I mean, if you run a store and people come in and leave without buying anything, you're not worried about those people. You're worried about the people that are your customers and how much are they buying and how frequently are they coming back.
Okay. That's fair.
I mean, just hypothetically, and I know these things are not easy, right? But limit. Here's the thing. Even if you had 10x more people on your team, we would still have to have these conversations.
Sure.
Of what's really worth working on.
Right. Of course. You'd never have unlimited resources.
Yeah.
Right?
But hypothetically, what would happen? Saturday email works.
Yes.
Awesome. Hypothetically, just for the sake of discussion here, if we went down this path of okay, we're going to trigger a 2 email drip after every search. I'm making the scope super narrow for something that we could ship in a day or two, right? Now, in theory, you could kill that Friday or that Saturday email because now you've potentially got 3,000, drops into people's inboxes every day. And now you can start testing.
Why would you kill it though?
That's what I'm about. Why would you kill it? Is what I was about.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, you might try moving it or testing a different time slot, but I think if it's generating
You
revenue,
could also segment the list. You can give people who say, I want this, I don't want that, whatever, right?
Well, I mean, right now you're just not doing enough stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, if you sign up for
the reason MarketBeat makes so much money is because we're kind of annoying.
Yeah, no, I would agree. There's whenever I get to a fork in the road on MarketBeat, there's 6 paths. It's not left or right,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I think that forces people to click more things.
Yeah. I mean, or like you say, I hate this and I'm out of here, which is fine. Like, I'm not worried about those people.
One of the, I agree. I think we aren't doing enough stuff. Oh, there's two reasons for it, both of which are solvable. One is that my team has been very focused on this Founders Club initiative because it is our subscription, and the idea being that if we have that recurring revenue coming in going forward into 2025, that gives us some sort of a, floor, if you will. So they have been, most of them have been focused on those features and building that offering out. Not to mention also because we've basically pre-sold it to this group. But then beyond that, the second reason, and this just comes down to I need to get someone to do, is right now I'm doing that newsletter, which I don't mind, but if I'm adding a second newsletter and this and that and the other thing, then I probably need to bring someone to do that.
And you can find somebody to do that for a couple $100 a week.
Of course, yeah.
So, I mean, don't let that stop you.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Do you think, it's not an area of expertise for me, when I see the way that MarketBeat has tiered things, do you think it makes sense for Julian to be trying to, you mentioned the word segment, should he be trying to sign people up for different types of lists? Like, do you want our daily deals list? Do you want our weekly list? Like, I see some of that stuff.
Eventually, but not today.
Okay.
I think there are definitely people that want different frequencies of communication.
Right.
But right now your frequency is almost zero. So,
Matt, I have like a weird question. You can take
sorry,
a
let me
pass.
just one follow-up. So I think what I heard you say though is you're not afraid of him increasing frequency.
No, if anything, it sounds like you
I mean, if I were
ramp it, yeah.
I would do probably as a starting point 3, an email every other day, and just go find somebody to do that.
Sure.
And like every email, like, yeah, you want content in there, but you want an ad in every email.
Of course.
Even if it's just a big button that says, here's the best credit cards right now, and goes to creditcards.com or whatever.
Right. Or here are our 8, favorite items we always take with us when we travel.
Well, the other thing you can do that my buddy Dave has done quite successfully is, like, he makes pages that are like big lists of stuff, but he calls them like money pages. And like the Penny Hoarder has done this successfully for years, where it's really like everything on a list is something that makes you money. So it seems like you're clicking through to your website and getting a content piece there, but it's really like, here's an eight things you could click on that will make you money.
Here's a list of affiliate links.
Yes, basically, yes. And like, they make so much money doing that.
That's
it's just
fascinating.
obnoxious.
Yeah.
Matt, are there? I know your industry is different than travel, obviously, right? But just if we were to do like just napkin math, is there like a general? So like if you didn't know Julian and you saw his business and you're like, okay, you got 64,000 email, whatever. Like, is there like a rule of thumb in your head that you can use across industries where you're like, okay, a list of 10,000 emails is worth X amount of revenue per year, or is, like, are there any rules of thumb like that you think about?
Yeah, I mean, there are like newsletter ad networks that pay on a CPM basis. So let's say you have 64,000 emails to get 30% open rate. That's 18, 19,000, say 20,000 opens per email. So at minimum, like CPM deal, like each email that you send out is worth $100. Obviously, you can do a lot more than that if you have targeted stuff. Multiply that 3 times a week, 52 weeks a year, and you get some number. Like on a per email basis, no, like it's all over the map. And it will also vary. It's going to depend on the industry. It's going to depend how aggressive you are. It's going to depend on your monetization. It's going to depend on where the emails came from. Because like somebody that like Googles you, comes to your website and installs it, like pretty high intent. But if somebody maybe clicks through from a news story and isn't really into travel, but they're just dumb and clicking around, like very low intent, lower monetization.
Speaking of, you said, we should be trying a lot of stuff, and I hear you on that. I think you're absolutely right. One of the things you mentioned in your book, and I'm asking just, is this on the list or is this premature, is like renting out your list, your email list. Is that something we should be trying at this stage, or is that something for down the line?
In terms of renting the list, like if somebody like gives you something to promote, like that's fine as long as like you send it out. You never want to like export your list and send it to
Right.
somebody.
Your book said your list is top secret.
Yeah,
Right.
top secret.
Or renting it, like you give a message, right? Or they give you a
Yeah,
message.
I mean, that's basically all we do. And there's different ways to do it. Like, obviously, the way we do it is they just send us the copy and we send it. If you want to be a little bit more high class, like you could insist that you write the email. So it seems like it's coming from you and you're not just like pimping your list out.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a classier way to do it.
When you do that, you do it under the MarketBeat header, if you will.
Yeah, and that'll say it's a message from Points Path. So it's clear that like it's a MarketBeat email, but it's a message from somebody else. It's an ad.
I think I got to get over the idea, like you said, of that I'm bothering people and just say, no, I'm just going to, and some people will be bothered and they'll leave and that'll be that.
Yeah.
But I need to basically push the envelope until it's pushed it too far.
Yeah, like just speaking as an investor, if you're growing or if you're monetizing, okay, so people are always so scared of unsubscribe rates, but on the investor side, if you're not monetizing and you have a high unsubscribe rate, then like all things being, the same, it's kind of like, okay, people don't like what you have and they don't want to be here. That's a problem. If on the other hand, you're making money and you have an unsubscribe rate that's a little higher than average, that's perfectly fine. No big deal. Like, in other words, you get no extra credit for a low unsubscribe rate if it just so happens that channel is how you're making a bunch of your revenue, which in your business, unfortunately, is how it's going to be. Because it's not like the airlines are going to come to you one day in mass and say, gosh, Julian, we love that you're helping people use the points that we think is the most valuable part of our business. Gosh, thank you. Please have some more. They're never going to do that. So really, to you, when you think about me as an email address, and I don't know what the average numbers are in the US, but like, I just would encourage you to think about it from the perspective of like, if I'm taking 3 trips a year, I don't know what the average American does. Maybe it's 2, whatever it is. Like, they probably take 1 or 2 trips, but I think that we talked about this when we were, before we invested in you too, or maybe you said this. It was like, travel is one of those aspirational things. It's one of those things where like, even if you can't afford it, you daydream, you're sitting on Google Flights and you're messing around with it, right?
Yeah.
And so, I know it's probably a little unpopular to say, but every time somebody dreams that up and looks at it, you don't know whether they can afford it or not. Because you don't really know. You can see if they clicked through, but you really don't know if they booked it. But either way, that the action of the search, knowing that the action of the search happened, is your opportunity to drop something hyper personalized, hyper contextual to them. And, if you're over time, you can get programmatic about this stuff. But like, even now it's like hard coding version 1 and starting to iterate on, okay, this week, if they searched and I'm making this up, but like they sorted by Star Alliance. Okay, maybe your actual email, the 80% of the email is like, hey, Paul, like here's a link back to those flights you were looking at. By the way, here's our favorite card to get Mileage Plus accounts or something. I'm making this up, right? Because in that context, I don't care about Delta, right? But like, something about me now.
No, I got you. I hear what you're saying.
Matt, you were talking about messaging and stuff. And I won't say the name in case you don't want to say it, but is that the sort of email that you're talking about where you guys are renting?
Yeah, that email that made us $50,000 yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. I'll forward it to you. But it's I think what's interesting to me is that the content there's a significant amount of content there.
Yeah, it's and if you click through, like there's a 45-minute video before there's ever a buy now button.
Right. Right. So I think with this, would you, when you're talking about renting the list, would you say, like, how often would you say that it's more this sort of messaging content versus a direct request from someone to buy something?
It's almost always that. It's what we find with our audience is like, our audience is investors. They tend to be a little bit older. They're trying to find ways to maybe get an edge on the market or like how to think about investing in a world that's very different than the world they grew up in. So for us, like our audience, they love content that gives them a glimpse of what the future might look like and really tells a story and educates and informs and like that one. It's a guy named Porter Stansberry, kind of a legend in the financial publishing space. Right now, he's got this, he has a newsletter that costs $1,000 a year. If he sells it, we keep, let's say, 70% of that or something like that. So big monetization opportunity if somebody buys for us. But his shtick right now is like, there's this big election in November, but it actually doesn't matter who wins because they both say they're going to spend like crazy and that's going to cause massive inflation. Added and it's going to continue. So like that's his belief of like what the world looks like next year. It's like, it really doesn't matter who wins. Like government's adding $1 trillion in debt every couple months now. It's totally insane. And here's how you should invest in light of that information. So he does really well.
Any guidance for Julian on how to find these sorts of opportunities that are unique to PointsBet? Like obviously you found Porter and
you mentioned in the book agencies is one way to do it.
Right? Yeah, you can do that as a good starting point. I'm not familiar with travel agencies, nearly as much. I'm sure they exist. Thankfully, you don't need to reinvent the wheel because the points guys probably already got most of it figured out, and you can just copy what they do. And at least in terms of monetization, like you get the credit card deals, you get the travel booking deals, products, affiliates, like all the stuff's there. You just got to figure out how to get your audience pushed into those things where you can get credit for, booking a hotel or doing all that stuff.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I think, and Ed, I think you would agree with me. I think while the Points Guy their newsletter might be one of the biggest ones in the travel points space, I don't think they have done any of that, to be frank. I think it's all credit cards.
No, they're very much a one-trick pony. They're like a 1.5-trick pony. Like a lot of the stuff, I to your point, Matt, I think if you took their audience and were willing to try 5 or 10 things against their list, I think you could create significant.
Oh yeah, I think you'd 5 or 10x what they're doing very quickly. They really are just doing credit cards.
I said this to you in the elevator coming up here. It's like, as an outsider to the travel industry, like I see all you guys hanging out in the same spots. You guys all know each other. I get that, right? Because every industry is kind of tight like that. I get that, right? But as a consumer, just with my consumer hat on, my dad hat on, whatever, like none of you guys are talking to me. And I think, to be fair, the industry's made a lot of money off those credit card offers. To your point, they're one-trick ponies, and I want to be really respectful.
I'm not recommending the credit card path.
No, I know. I don't
think it's the right
path. If anything,
path.
you're saying it. Yeah, don't focus on that.
Right.
Yeah, all I'm saying is like
I
want to be respectful of the fact that they built massive businesses on just selling on just those credit cards, right? But like the bigger opportunity here is to look at everything else they're leaving on the table.
I agree. Not
No,
only that,
that's
you don't have to
literally-
compete
no,
with
that's what I
them
said.
on that.
Yeah,
use the credit card offers to just get some money in the door.
Sure.
No, Matt said something when we were here the first time that made me think about this. It was a complete paradigm shift for me, because to your point of having this tunnel vision on the market, you said, and I'll bleep the numbers out, we do X in affiliate income on a yearly basis. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of credit cards. And your next reply was, oh, we don't do credit cards. And it made me, like, that comment stuck with me of, hey, you can make a significant amount of money off of customers that trust you and don't sell them credit cards, a space that has regulatory risk and competitive risk that you can't control. To your point, I don't think, like, I think it's fine for Julian to make some money off of credit cards today if it's easy money, but if it takes time to do that, I think the reason we're here is to say, like, how do we find these other paths?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what happened with maybe the points guy is like, for us, we have like promoting financial newsletters makes us so much more money than everything else. We just kind of stopped caring.
Sure.
And I think that's what happened with the points guys. They make so much from credit cards. They're like, why do we care about making $4 by booking a United flight? This doesn't matter to us. Well, and in doing that, they're probably shooting themselves in the foot, but like long term, because like who knows how long this credit card game's gonna be a thing for.
Right. Like I think to your point, you've been doing this long enough to feel like there's a level of viability in being able to associate with various financial institutions outside of your own that won't change quickly one day by some sort of regulatory hammer.
No, and like the SEC does not want to regulate financial publishers. Really at all. The FTC does. So like if you make some stupid claim saying you invest in this, you're going to 10,000 extra money overnight. Like obviously they don't want that, and we'll crack down on you if you make enough noise doing that. But like as long as you don't do anything stupid, you're going to be fine. But for us though, I think like, okay, let's say everybody decided like Porter Stansberry's a bad guy, nobody should ever buy anything from him. It's like, okay, that's fine. I'll just go get the credit card offers and start sending those to my list. Like the value is in the audience, and then the monetization can change over time.
Yeah. I think, like even even your question, Julian, about like, the agencies and stuff, I think like none of that stuff really matters until you have the inventory, put that stuff somewhere, right? And that really comes back to like, okay, short-term roadmap, what really matters? I don't think in this context, when we talk about monetization, this automatically, and I'm just saying this assertively, it's your roadmap, right? But like, one of the things that we're kind of, I think, starting to underscore here is that growth strategy probably needs to go down the list of things to worry about, because it's happening, A, and B, if we had more revenue, we could actually pump more in, right? Because, one of the things that's counterintuitive about angel investors is like, we actually don't care if you raise more money. Like if you were to get super profitable now, the angels are still fine, right? You don't have any institutions in your deal yet.
Correct.
If you did, and once you cross that threshold, the pressure is much different, where it's like, hey, I need a markup. They need a markup because they got to show that their money's worth more on paper, right?
Right.
On the angel side, we don't think about that. We're just kind of like, hey, dude, like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have an office like this because you don't have to answer to anybody, And so I just think the short-term roadmap really needs to be like, how do you take the action that your users are doing, because you've instrumented that now, and now start to use that to get, that's basically they're giving you permission now to hit them up right away and give them something.
I agree with that. However, I will say the last time we talked on this podcast, you were very much in favor of grow.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I'm all for like, let's change it up.
That's fair. But remember, at that time, I was also having to convince you that you could potentially hit 100,000 emails, and you were like, that is impossible. Here we are. You may not hit it, but I think I also said to you, like, the point is not that you hit that goal. The point is that you aim bigger on the growth. And I'm not taking any credit for your growth, by the way. I'm just saying that, like, I think if we were to time travel back to that point, you probably thought going from 5,000 emails at the time to 20,000 at the end of the first year was going to be a win. And I was simply trying to tell you, like, at that stage, you need to be aiming for 100, not because you're going to hit it. I don't care, but because it's going to force you to say no to a lot of things. Now you're there, or you've got something that's going, and now it's like, okay, like, what's worth more right now? So, and again, you don't have to say anything. We can edit it out if you want. Roughly how much runway do you have before you need to start fundraising? So it's runway divide by 2. What is like?
Yeah, no, now we think we're cutting down to like the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, all things considered, what's worth more? Now, maybe this is a question to the group, just maybe or rhetorical. What would be worth more in terms of making your next fundraise easier? Saying, hey, I've got 200,000 emails, or saying, hey, I've got 64,000. It's growing by 100 or 200 a day. And we're now we're pulling in 10,000 a week. I would argue it's that, right? Because you've proven the growth side. Like, the only reason everybody talks about growth at the early stage is because we're still trying to figure out if there's a market for it.
Well, the other thing is if I'm pulling in 10,000 a week, frankly, I don't need to raise it.
Bingo.
Yeah, right.
And that's the
which
thing.
Which has been the goal.
The thing is, like, most people don't have this good problem you have, which is you have users and you have enough instrumentation to actually. So really, it's like, yeah, I mean, I just think it's one of those things where it's like, again, I'm saying this like it's so simple, and I know it's not, but it's like, I think you have so much opportunity ahead of you that's like this paradox of choice. And that's what makes it hard. We just say, like, narrow it down into, like, how do you get in their inboxes? To his point, email them more, and they're telling you what they're looking for. So now just make sure those emails are, even if they're hard coded, just a little more contextual. Like, hey, Paul, saw you looked up Dallas today. By the way, our favorite accessories for Dallas are X, Y, and Z.
Right, make it relevant.
Yeah. I mean, hell, if you want to get fancy for version 3, maybe ClickBank has an API and you can programmatically test stuff. But for version 1,
right. No, I hear you. Just
hard code
it. Write it.
I feel like you're creating a false dichotomy of like grow versus monetize.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
And like, really, we're talking about a math equation of like, how do we make the most amount of money? And like getting more people on the top of the funnel will make you more money. Monetizing them better will make you more money. And I think if I'm you, I just think, okay, what is my lowest hanging fruit? And then like start there. And for me, like, I think, doing like literally nothing with the people that are in your your funnel of like checking out a flight, like you're just leaving money
That's
on the
fair.
table,
Yeah.
and not sending more than one email a week, and leaving money on the table, and like
So increasing frequency. You definitely hear that loud and clear. I'm curious, as somebody who hasn't read the book, he's read more of it than I have because I haven't read
this
it.
book, Email Marketing Demystified, 3rd edition,
Yeah. Yeah.
available on Amazon for
Well,
not a lot of money.
I was gonna say use Julian's affiliate.
Yeah, we
link.
need an affiliate link right below.
We just need the light.
Yeah, that's perfect. So should he be thinking about things like, and again, not an area of expertise for me, but if he increases frequency on the list and he's obviously able to tell who is responding to that frequency, do you start to segment and say that people that click on offers get more email?
You can definitely do that. I mean, it's hard to do that.
Okay.
So like you can't just go buy it like as a platform somewhere. You got to go build it.
Right.
So that's probably not the lowest hanging
Okay.
fruit. Yeah, I mean I feel like it's a yes and business of like how
Yeah.
can we just keep doing more and more and more and more and more, and then you wake up 15 years later and you're making $40 million a year and you've got a fancy office and a private jet.
Don't forget the speakeasy.
Oh yes, and a speakeasy.
Do you think, and this maybe sound like a very overly generalized question, given what you've heard from Julian so far, and he said, the number of different paths, it sounds like you lean very heavily into email the shit out of the list and figure out what that breaking point is versus any of the other channels right now.
I would say email the shit out of it. Like, but I think you're not anywhere close to like the piss people off kind of level.